Your comeback begins the moment you decide that your past pain will no longer define your future identity. For a long time, people may have seen you through the lens of your struggles. They remembered the version of you that was healing, learning, or trying to survive difficult circumstances. That was the only chapter of your life they were exposed to, and because of that, they formed assumptions about your limits. But transformation is powerful because it proves that no chapter is permanent. When growth happens quietly behind the scenes, others often do not notice it at first. They are used to a familiar pattern, the emotions you once expressed, the doubts you once carried, and the challenges you once faced. They assume that is who you are. Meanwhile, you are rebuilding, reflecting, learning, and strengthening yourself in silence. By the time your confidence, clarity, and direction become visible, it feels sudden to them, even though it was the result of consistent effort. People who only knew your wounded self may struggle to recognize the new version of you. They might expect old reactions, old insecurities, or old responses to situations that once triggered you. When you no longer react the same way, they feel surprised or even uncomfortable. Your emotional stability and growth disrupt the image they created in their minds. That disruption is what makes your comeback powerful. Transformation also changes how you carry yourself. The pain you endured does not disappear, but it becomes wisdom instead of weakness. The lessons you learned from difficult experiences shape your decisions and strengthen your boundaries. You no longer move through life trying to prove something to people who underestimated you. Instead, you move with quiet confidence built on experience and self-awareness. This shift terrifies those who once saw you as limited because it reveals that their perception was incomplete. Your growth stands as proof that circumstances do not define destiny. The version of you they labeled as broken was never your final form. Your comeback shows that you were always capable of becoming stronger than the story they chose to believe about you. Healing changes more than your emotional state. It transforms your entire energy and the way you show up in the world. When you were going through pain, trauma, or difficult relationships, your strength was often focused on survival. You were learning how to cope, how to manage emotions, and how to keep moving forward despite internal struggles. During that phase, people around you may have seen vulnerability, doubt, or uncertainty. They may have mistaken your healing process for weakness because they did not fully understand what you were overcoming. But healing is not a quiet surrender. It is an active process of self-reflection, awareness, and rebuilding. As you confront your wounds and choose to work through them instead of hiding from them, something powerful happens inside you. The pain that once controlled your reactions slowly becomes a source of understanding and wisdom. The experiences that once broke your confidence begin to strengthen it because you now see how far you have come. This shift in energy is noticeable. You carry yourself differently when you have processed your pain. Instead of suppressing it, your decisions become more intentional. Your boundaries become clearer. You no longer tolerate situations that mirror the harm you have already survived. That change alone can make people uncomfortable, especially those who are used to seeing you in a vulnerable state. Some individuals may feel surprised or even threatened by your emotional strength. They expected the version of you that sought reassurance or validation. Instead, they now see someone who understands their worth and refuses to shrink for comfort. Your healing removes access to the emotional reactions they once depended on. Without that access, they cannot predict or control your responses the way they used to. Your inner strength becomes visible through calm confidence and grounded behavior. It is not loud or aggressive, but it is firm. People who underestimated you begin to realize that your transformation is real and lasting. The more you heal, the more your presence reflects resilience rather than pain. That realization unsettles those who defined you by your wounds, because now they must face the truth that you were never meant to stay in that broken version. You were always meant to rise beyond it. Confidence after growth is different from confidence that comes from validation or temporary success. When someone has gone through hardship and then chosen to rebuild themselves, their confidence is built on experience rather than approval. It is rooted in survival, learning, and self-discovery. People who once saw you during your weakest moments may remember a version of you that doubted yourself, questioned your decisions, or depended on reassurance. They are often unprepared for the shift that happens when self-belief replaces self-doubt. As you heal and grow, you begin to trust your judgment. You no longer second-guess every decision based on how others might react. You understand your strengths and acknowledge your flaws without shame. That self-awareness creates stability in the way you speak, move, and respond to challenges. Your presence becomes grounded because it is no longer driven by fear of rejection or the need for constant validation. This kind of confidence cannot be easily ignored. When you walk into a room with calm assurance, people notice the difference. Those who once perceived you as uncertain may feel surprised by how secure you now appear. Your tone becomes firmer, your boundaries clearer, and your energy less reactive to outside opinions. The shift signals that you have taken control of your narrative instead of allowing others to define it. For individuals who were comfortable seeing you in a vulnerable state, this transformation can feel unsettling. They might struggle to adjust to the fact that you no longer seek their approval or permission. Your independence challenges the role they may have unconsciously assigned to you. The role of someone who needed guidance, reassurance, or emotional support at every step. But your confidence is not about proving anything to them. It is about recognizing your own progress and honoring the growth you have achieved. Every lesson you learned from pain, every boundary you set, and every challenge you overcame contributed to this strength. When people see you standing firmly in your power, it becomes clear that the version of you they once underestimated was never meant to remain small. Your confidence now reflects transformation, resilience, and self-respect, and that is what makes your comeback impossible to ignore. Success and visible progress speak in a language that requires no explanation. When you are rebuilding your life after pain or setback, the progress may feel slow and personal at first. You notice the small improvements, better habits, clearer thinking, stronger decisions, and healthier relationships. These changes happen quietly through discipline and consistency. But over time, they accumulate into results that others can clearly see. People who only knew you during your struggles often form assumptions based on that chapter of your life. They may remember the obstacles you faced or the moments when things did not go your way. Because that was the version of you they observed, they may unconsciously believe that your circumstances define your potential. However, when your efforts begin producing tangible outcomes, those assumptions start to break. Achievements carry power because they are proof of transformation. Whether it is personal growth, career advancement, improved relationships, or emotional stability, progress demonstrates that you refuse to stay stuck. When people witness this shift, especially if they doubted you before, it creates a strong reaction. Some may feel proud, others inspired, but some may feel surprised or even unsettled because your success challenges their previous perception of you. Your growth becomes undeniable when it is reflected in your actions and results. You no longer have to explain how much you have changed. Your consistency communicates it for you. The goals you reach and the boundaries you enforce show that you have stepped into a stronger version of yourself. Words become less important than evidence. For those who underestimated your journey, seeing your progress can feel uncomfortable. It forces them to reconsider the label they once placed on you. They must acknowledge that their limited view did not capture your full potential. That realization can create quiet tension because your success highlights their misjudgment. But your progress is not meant to prove anything to anyone. It is the natural outcome of choosing growth over limitation. When your achievements speak loudly, they silence old assumptions without you needing to defend yourself. And that quiet power is often what makes your comeback impossible to ignore. One of the clearest signs that someone has truly transformed after pain is their relationship with boundaries. In the past, you may have tolerated behavior that crossed your limits because you were focused on keeping peace, preserving connections, or avoiding conflict. You might have ignored red flags, excused disrespect, or accepted situations that slowly diminished your sense of self-worth. At that time, protecting harmony often felt more important than protecting yourself. But growth changes that mindset. As you begin to value your emotional well-being more deeply, you realize that not everyone deserves unrestricted access to your time, energy, and presence. You understand that boundaries are not walls built out of anger, they're standards built out of self-respect. When you start enforcing those standards, people who benefited from your silence or compliance may feel the shift immediately. Those who are comfortable when you accepted less than you deserved often react strongly when you stop doing so. They may interpret your boundaries as distance or rejection because they were used to operating without limits. Suddenly, the behaviors that once went unchallenged now meet clear resistance. The dynamic changes, and that change exposes whether someone values you for who you are or only for how flexible you are around them. For people who respected you genuinely, boundaries create clarity. They understand that healthy relationships require mutual effort and accountability. They adjust their actions and show consistency because they care about maintaining trust. But for individuals who relied on emotional control, manipulation, or entitlement, boundaries feel threatening. Your refusal to accept repeated harm removes their ability to influence you the way they once did. This is why boundaries can feel powerful and unsettling at the same time. They signal that you are no longer available for patterns that weakened you in the past. When you stand firm in what you will and will not tolerate, the mask of convenience falls away. People reveal their true intentions through their reactions to your limits. Your comeback becomes visible in these moments because self-respect replaces self-sacrifice. And anyone who depended on your silence now has to confront the reality that access to you is earned, not assumed. When you fully step into your power after healing, the most powerful change is not just visible success or stronger boundaries. It is the shift in how people respond to your presence. Over time, the way you carry yourself reflects confidence, clarity, and emotional control. You no longer react impulsively to opinions that once hurt you. You no longer feel pressured to explain your growth to people who underestimated your journey. Instead, you move with quiet certainty. This energy naturally exposes the difference between those who genuinely support you and those who are comfortable with your previous limitations. The people who respect your transformation will acknowledge it with encouragement and consistency. They recognize that growth is something to celebrate, not suppress. But others may feel unsettled because your evolution disrupts the role they assigned to you in the past. If they were used to seeing you as vulnerable, dependent, or uncertain, your strength challenges their perception. Your presence alone becomes proof that change is real. You do not need to announce your comeback loudly. It speaks through your behavior, your achievements, and your boundaries. And when truth is reflected so clearly, it becomes difficult for anyone to maintain old assumptions or hidden judgments. Some people may react with surprise, others with quiet admiration, and some with resistance. The resistance often comes from discomfort. Your growth forces them to confront the fact that they misjudged your potential or underestimated your resilience. Instead of admitting that directly, they may try to minimize your progress or act indifferent. But their reaction reveals more about their internal struggle than about your success. In this stage of transformation, you understand that not everyone is meant to walk with you into the next chapter. Your comeback naturally separates relationships based on authenticity and alignment. Those who value your strength will stay. Those who feel threatened by it will slowly distance themselves. Ultimately, your evolution removes the power others once had over your self-image. You no longer see yourself through the lens of someone else's past perception. You see yourself as someone who survived, healed, grew, and rose. And that realization alone is what makes your comeback powerful and terrifying to anyone who only knew the wounded version of you.